Return, O Virgin Daughter of Israel, to these your highways by which you went. Welcome to Reunion Roadmap, a place to discover the people and communities along the highway of restoration for Israel's House of Yosef. Reunion Roadmap is a B'nai Yosef North America production. Be our guest for the next hour as we meet the people of the emerging House of Yosef here in North America. Shalom, this is Safani Pappas with B'nai Yosef North America, and with me is Al McCarn, our Executive Director, and we're going to part two in our interview with Pastor Joe Hufstetler. Isn't that correct, Al?
Yes, that's right. Pastor Joe is the senior pastor of Destination Church in Valrico, Florida, near Tampa. And this is where, we learned in the first segment about how he got to be a pastor, a little bit about the church, how he got to Israel. And then we were in the middle of talking about what God does in people's lives. You know, I found it interesting as he was talking about a woman who had been a prostitute in his church and the testimony that came from her. You know, our Messiah dealt with people that no one else would deal with.
Absolutely.
Yes, so in this segment, we're going to pick it up from there. And this is where Pastor Joe gets acquainted with automated anti-Semitism. It's always interesting to see what happens when people who, have never thought about a thing or never been exposed to a thing, all of a sudden it becomes very real. Well, going to Israel, encountering what happened at the Nova Festival site at Kibbutz Be'eri, that was eye-opening in itself. But in this segment, Pastor Joe tells us about what happens when he started, even while the tour was still going on, sharing this on social media. So we'll talk about that, and we will go some more into what happened with this 1,000-pastor tour and his impressions thereof. One thing we're going to hear in the next segment, our third and final part of our conversation, is about a special event that Destination Church is having with an IDF officer. And as we are recording right now, this is the week that event's happening. It's a 2-day event. The first day happened yesterday, and it went very well. So with that as introduction, let's go on and continue our conversation with Pastor Joe Hufstetler. And you said a few minutes ago, Joe, about people are still dying from what happened on October 7th, the suicides in particular. Mm-hmm. We ought to be praying for those folks.
Yeah.
And may the Lord have mercy and lift them out of darkness.
Yeah.
But there was more of those scenes of darkness that you went through on that first day, because you went from the Nova Festival to, was it the Kibbutz Be'eri?
Yes. And that was, you pull in there and it's an agricultural thing. And, if you've never been to Israel before and you're listening to this podcast, it's amazing how Israel has developed. They're the most intelligent. I mean, like everybody looks to them, like, how do you create agriculture in a desert, and this is the area that they work on those things. And so when we first pulled up, we didn't know exactly what to expect. And there was a lady that took us on this tour, and she was saying that, when you think about October 7th, you think about the invasion that took place at the concert area Nova, and then you think of it, but it continued to spread. It was happening all over the place. And so at the same time, these boats came in, and they came into the kibbutz, and they were the first house they walked up to, they shot the family. Killed them, grabbed the children, the 2 boys, I believe they were boys, and they went, and of course at that time the sirens were going off, and they went into hiding, right? Everybody in their homes had a shelter. They went into the shelter. So these terrorists these Hamas, they took these boys and they went door to door and had the little boys knock on the door. And when the parents would ask, "Who is it?" they would say, "Please open the door, save us, please." And then they would open the door and they would shoot the entire family. And then they would go to the next house and they would do it the next house. And there's so many things, so many things. And man, I tell you that was really hard to hear. And how many people were just murdered. They would shoot the dogs. They would shoot they would kill any pets that they had. They would just butcher them. And that was hard. And that wasn't the hard. Those two things weren't the hardest thing. The hardest things happened when we got to the military base a few days later. But that was hard. So yeah.
Let me ask this about had you cultivated any relationships with Jewish people before your trip to Israel?
Yeah, I have some really good friends like Pastor David Jones. Is we he is our at our building on Saturdays. I love him. He's a great guy. But I have some Jewish friends that I'm friends with. But we don't really, I'm so busy sometimes that I don't have time to be there for everybody or I got they got three kids at home, so I'm trying to pastor a church and raise three kids at the same time and be a husband, father, and everything. So this was really eye-opening for me, this whole trip. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, where I'm going with this is the anti-Semitism, the Jew hatred that we have, that we see so much. A lot of it is from people who never encountered Jews.
Mhm.
They don't have Jewish friends. They might have encountered a Jewish landlord or physician or attorney, but they don't know Jewish people, Jewish culture, and they haven't established that these are people like us.
Yeah.
They want to raise their children in peace. They want to succeed and see their children succeed. They want to be good citizens and good neighbors.
Yep.
So what you're telling me of the story of Kibbutz Be'eri is here were these people not that different from the rest of us
Hmm.
sitting in their homes on a Shabbat, on a
Hmm.
high holy day,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden these evil people came in and did these unspeakable things to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish more people understood that.
Yeah, and these are farmers. These are people who are raising cattle, who are, just, this is they have their agriculture, they're working on the soil, they're working on the planting plants, they're doing it for the people because the people need to have the vegetables and the things that they need, and they're raising up the livestock. And these are hardworking people who were innocent. They didn't wake up that morning and think, man, we're going to get killed today, just like anything else. Like they're good, really good people. And it broke my heart, like to think of the PTSD that the entire nation is still struggling with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot. And yeah.
Well, while you were there in Be'eri and the Gaza envelope, I guess it's called now, what did they tell you about any kind of contact or relationship that the people of those communities had with Gazans before October 7th?
Yeah. So before October 7th, a lot of the Palestinian people would work at that place. They would work with them and they would help them. They would participate because, a lot of them didn't have jobs. So the nation of Israel actually gave a lot of jobs to the Palestinian people to help them, but unfortunately, this is not a Palestinian and Jewish thing. This is a Hamas who has ingrained themselves in almost like a spider web with the Palestinian people, where it's like I think the feeling that I felt the entire trip that I was there was, how in the world do you untangle this web? You got to find the beginning of the web and you got to find the ending of the web. But it was overwhelming to me because the people were so grateful that the 1,000 pastors came, and I still couldn't understand it. But then they finally said to us that the people everywhere we went, they were like, "Thank you for being here. This is so big." Even on the airplane over, this guy sitting next to me, his name was Isaac. He said, "This is so big," and I'm like, well, "But why is it big?" And he said, but you don't understand what we go through. He says, what you don't understand is the entire world has turned their back on Israel except for America. So when 1,000 pastors would come and take time out of their busy schedules to come here to show us they support us, that means the world to us. If America was confined and everybody turned their back on America, you would feel a small glimpse of what we feel because we're a small nation.
I understand that as well in a way. I mean, having been in Ottawa last spring at a Jewish and Christian conference on anti-Semitism in Canada, I felt that from the Jewish representatives, the rabbis who spoke to us, and others.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the isolation, both
yeah,
in the land of Israel and in Jewish communities out here in the diaspora.
yeah.
Well, let's move on to what happened next
Yeah.
for the rest of the tour. What did they have you doing?
So we got to see a lot of biblical sites, which was really, really good because they didn't want to give us too much. So they took us to we got a chance to I don't have my letter in front of me right now that I wrote, but I was trying to remember every detail of the trip. There's so many things, like you were saying earlier, they packed in. I mean, we were constantly going. It was
Mm.
not the only time you got time to stop is at 6 o'clock. You went in and you were able to eat dinner and go to bed, or do whatever you wanted to do. Sometimes they take you drop you off for dinner, then you'd go somewhere else, in the evening. But we got a chance to go to the near the Gaza Strip. They took us to a military base, but before we actually got there, we got a chance to go to Shiloh, and that was so unbelievable to me because for many reasons, obviously, Hannah prayed for her child to have a child there. That's where the tabernacle was at one time. That's where the Ark of the Covenant was. We were walking up the mountain, and let me tell you, man, of course it's still a place where they're still digging and finding new things. But one of the things was when you open the Bible and read it, it's like, man, the Bible tells you exactly where it is. It talks about the vineyards right near there, and you can look to your right, and there's the vineyards. It talks about the road between the vineyards and where this place is, and there's the road is still there. You look at the guy that was our tour guide there was talking about how he was talking about how they wanted, yes, and when you open the Bible, it kind of shows you exactly where it is, but they also were like, hey, it would be nice to find something physical. Like if we unearthed something physical that said this is where Shiloh is. And as they were digging over the years, they found this mosaic that was in the ground, and it said Jesus save Shiloh. And that was enough for them. Like, this is it. This is where Shiloh was. And so as we were walking, I found this shell sitting on the ground on top of this mountain. And I'm like, what in the world? Why would a shell be on top of this mountain? And so the archaeologists were digging over here, and they're like, if you want to position yourself in a way of kind of thinking, well, this is where the tabernacle is. And I'll be honest with you, I went back and grabbed the shell. I'm like, that's really weird. So I asked the tour guide, I was like, is this like, is a shell like, do you find shells up here? And he says, very seldom that you would ever find a shell up here. But you never know. So that was a very special place. I really felt, I just began to pray. I just began to pray for some of their church members who have not been able to have children. There's a lot of pottery pieces over there that have been broken off, and I was able to grab a couple of those. I don't think I was supposed to, but they was sitting on the ground. Lord forgive me, but I wanted to give I wanted to give those to those poor ladies who have been praying to have a child for years. And then we went into the old city, and that was, man, that was amazing, man, to see inside of the old city and walk it and to experience the Muslim ward, which felt dark, and then you get to the Jewish ward, and it was beautiful and peaceful, and then you get to the Christian ward, it's even better.
Mm.
So that was one day that we experienced. That was really good. A
Yeah.
lot of stuff there.
And that was the old city of Jerusalem there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's similar to what I have understood walking through the same place. By the way, for those pottery shards at Shiloh, it's okay. You can
Okay,
take
good. Okay,
them.
good.
Now, the
I
story.
felt a little guilty about that. I was like, how am I going to get this? I guess I'll stick it on my luggage and I'll be okay. But
Hey, I got a whole bag full of those pottery
do you?
shards.
That's cool.
Yeah, the story is, I mean, those are like 3,000 years old because
Yeah.
when the tribes would assemble, say at the Feast of Tabernacles, they would eat in the presence of the Lord, and then take those pots and such because they were holy. They couldn't be used for anything else, and they break
Yeah.
them and just leave the shards.
Yeah.
So that's why there's millions of them.
Yeah. It's
Eh,
amazing.
yeah, it is.
It's amazing to just, man, I knew I was going to miss Israel the day I was leaving. I turned around and the view from on top of where Shiloh is was just breathtaking, to
Mm,
think, man, this is where it all happened. Like, oh, this is we're standing right here, the Bible, when I preach now, I was there. I've seen it for my own eyes. Yeah.
yes, you have. You also went, as I recall, to the Garden Tomb.
Yes, that was later, but yeah, we went to the Garden Tomb. That was fantastic. Obviously, we were able to go to both of the tombs. There's two tombs, and they're not 100% sure which one is the right one, but we know that one of them is, and it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that was definitely eye-opening and
Yeah,
emotional as well. Yeah,
very much. Yeah, I just went to one of them, the Protestant site,
yeah, yeah,
the one next to the bus station where they have a potential site of Golgotha.
yeah,
Yeah, but it's true. You just feel the presence of all this biblical history, certainly the presence of the Lord
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Okay, so you had this orientation to the land, to our history, our shared history, Jewish and
hmm
Christian.
hmm
And then you also went to the Friends of Zion Museum. That's another one of my favorite places. What did you
yeah.
learn there?
Wow, that was so good, man. There was so much there to learn about just the history of the Jewish people and the people that supported the Jewish people throughout history and what they have been through, and to be able to see it, like it is mind blowing. Like the technology that they have in that building, it was mind blowing to me. Like you put your hand out and a woman's face would shine on your hand in one section, and it would talk about the story, and you would stand underneath this glass dome, and only you can hear what they're talking about. But if you stand away from the glass dome, you can't hear it. It's just that was really, really, really cool. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and the whole point of Friends of Zion, and this is why Friends of Zion was the ministry that was so key to this.
Hmm.
And folks are not aware of it unless they've had an experience like you have or have studied it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the reason that the Jewish state of Israel exists right now is because of Christian
Hmm.
Friends of Zion, Christian
Yeah.
Zionists.
Yeah.
It's not a 21st century phenomenon. As you learned, it goes back centuries.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise then that Dr. Mike Evans and the FOZ were instrumental in partnering with the government of Israel. So, what do they tell you in these training sessions and so on?
Yeah.
What did you learn?
One of the things that they did on I think it was like the third day, we got to go to a military base, and we were probably two football fields away from the Gaza Strip there. And we get there, and of course, everybody wants to take pictures with the soldiers, and that was great. And look at some of the equipment they have, the drones, the different things like that. And then you go into this briefing room, and there's a picture. I have a picture of I was sitting in the second row, and it's an ocean of people. 1,000 people is just a lot of people, and so. They had all their soldiers there, and this LDF colonel, lieutenant colonel. They let us take pictures of certain people, and then some people they're like, "Hey, you can't photograph or film these people." And one of them was this top colonel, and he says, "I want to show you a video." And he showed us the video, the 15-minute video, and it's never been. I don't believe it's been shown in America before. I didn't know that until one of our guys at our church told us that is top. He's in the military, big guy. And anyways, yeah, that was the hardest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and I can't unsee that. Unfortunately, I wish I could. I wish I could take those thoughts, those pictures out of my head. What that was when Israel went in to attack Hamas, they collected all their cell phones, obviously, because they want information, and so they would grab everybody's cell phone, and on those cell phones were the videos that were taken as they were burning people alive, as they were raping women, as they were cutting people's heads off, and they would laugh about it. They would laugh. They thought it was the greatest thing in the entire. You think they were talking about Disney World as they were butchering these poor innocent people, and man, it was hard to watch. And then and it was disgusting. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And all I can think about is how can somebody laugh as they're raping and burning people alive and babies too. They were burning them alive and they're in this video. And so when the video got done, it was completely quiet. Obviously, nobody was talking. Everybody was being really quiet because they process. So you're trying to process all this stuff in your head. Like, how could this happen? How could there be such evil? And that's what I was saying earlier. This is not a Palestinian thing or a Jewish thing. This is a hatred. This is a light and darkness, and that darkness is anti-Semitism. There is these bots, these terrorist organizations. That's what there's a hatred. It's demonic. It's so demonic, and you can see it. Like, when you watch a video that this is not real, that this is real, and how can somebody do it? And then when he got finished speaking, he said, "Would you guys like to see the 30-minute video?" And thank God everybody said no, because the majority of the people said no, and nobody, that was a lot worse. And then we got to meet a leader of the Mossad, one of them that was in charge of the pagers that exploded. And a remarkable story. Like, he he said Israel made money on this deal. Like, they got a hold of Motorola, they became the sales rep for that, and they made a ton of money on that. And 2 years later, they got rid of a lot of terrorists that way. So that was a difficult thing, but that was probably the most eye-opening thing for me, because it's one thing to stand in a place and see pictures. It's one thing to stand in a agricultural area and hear the stories, and it's hard to hear. But it's another thing to see the stories, to see the things that are happening, and with your own eyes. That was like the hardest thing I've ever seen, and it made me mad.
And now, Instrument of Worship by Laura Metzing, from her album, My Everything.
Make me your instrument of worship. All I have to offer is my whole heart. Make me your instrument of worship. All I have to offer is my whole heart. To know you is all I desire. To do all of what you require. I love you, Yeshua. I love you with all my heart. Make me your instrument of worship. All I have to offer is my whole heart. To know you is all I desire. To do all of what you require. your instrument of worship.
Shalom, everybody. Welcome to the mid-rush portion of Reunion Roadmap. This is David Jones. With me today is Barry Phillips. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, David.
Yeah, I'm thinking about acts of faith today and how we show our faith and what really is faith. I mean, biblically speaking, faith, the word for faith is emunah, which is from the word aman, which can also be translated as believe, but also literally means trust or faithful. So the idea is Yahweh is faithful, but what do we do with that? When we say we believe something, we often just say just that, I believe it, and we think it's just a thought. But scripturally speaking, if we believe something, that affects the things that we do. It affects how we act toward things and just our daily life. So I'm thinking about the phrase and thinking specifically toward Abraham as I'm thinking about this, but I'm thinking of inside out faith. Faith is inside out. It has to originate inside of you, and it has to be a thought, and it has to be on your heart. But at some point, it has to come forth in some type of physical form, some kind of action, some kind of something to go along with it. I'm thinking along the lines of Hebrews 11 says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. I believe part of this is by our actions. It's a confidence and a hope, proof, conviction, but that's going to carry over into the things that we do, the things that we say, our actions toward one another, life in the kingdom, if you will. And we know that scripture says, Abraham believed God and it was counted him as righteousness. Well, when he believed Yahweh, he acted on what Yahweh had said. He didn't just say, okay, I believe you, when Yahweh says, I want you to leave here and I'm going to show you a land and I'm going to make you a great and from you many people and nation, right? He didn't say, okay, that sounds good, I believe it, and then sit down. He had to actually go out and act on that belief. I heard many times, I'm sure you've heard stuff like this too, Barry, put feet on your prayers. You have to go and take an action toward what we know. Yahweh will ask us to do things to show our faith. And that's not just for our benefit, although it is for our benefit, but it's for the benefit of those that we may encounter along the way. We're to help build up each other's faith. And that's done by not words, but actions. So I'm thinking about this and living inside out. We need to live inside out. And again, as we do a lot of these mid-rushes, there's a couple different ways we can go with this, a couple different things that we can take from this. So, Barry, what do you think? Where should we run with this?
Well, I'm thinking of Genesis, Bereshit chapter 13, where Lot, or commonly said Lot has finally left Avram at this point. And Yah speaks to Avram and says to look in all four directions, and all the land that he sees, he said, I will give to you. And makes him a promise that his seed would be as the dust of the earth. Now, at this present moment, he's without a child. And in a couple chapters, he's going to make a statement. Well, Eliezer, my servant, is my heir. So, he's still expecting a child, but not getting a child. And yet he has this promise of an enormous genealogy following after him. That's not coming to pass, but what can come to pass? Yah says in verse 17 to arise and walk through the land in its length and width, for I give it to you. The next verse says, so Abraham moved his tent. He did what he could do. sometimes we have this mindset of what I want and what I'm really needing. It's just not happening. So we quit our belief on everything. We just kind of sit down and say, well, he made this promise and it's obviously not going to come to pass. So why trust him for anything else? Yah redirected his mindset and said, possess the land, put it under your feet, go travel through it. So he started moving his tent. Belief sometimes, David, we were believing in one area and Yah is asking us to move in a different arena about something completely different. So while he's moving his tent, he has to be trusting at some point and some means, I'm going to have a child. But while I'm not having a child at the moment, I'm going to obey him in the area where I can. So the demonstration of our belief may not always be in our first arena of choice. It may be to us a bit secondary, although possessing the land is extremely important. So that's my first thought here is obey where you can until you can obey where you want to.
Aha. So now we've tied in obedience along with faith. I got a thought. I'm going to try to take this slow. My brain is moving a little slow this morning. I'm going to try to take this slow so I don't mess up my train of thought, what I'm thinking here. But, many people say, oh, if I just say I have faith, that there's blessing because of that. But there's actually a process to that. And that involves obedience. What I'm thinking is that, okay, so Yahweh has promises in his word. There are things that he says is for his people. And you've heard it, if Yahweh calls you to something, he will equip you to fulfill that call. He chose the foolish things to confound the wise kind of thing, right? He called you not because, he knows that you can do it. He calls you because he knows you can't. He can. So we need to learn to walk in that faith, which requires obedience. We read and hear his word, so we walk in obedience to that. So we say we have faith because we are being obedient. And faith leads to belief. If we say we have faith and belief, then there's an action to that. And
Right.
that action establishes obedience. Because we can say we're going to do something, but unless we actually do it, that's not obedience, right? So it's that action that establishes obedience. And then because we are obedient, we do what he says, then there's blessing. I said before you today, life and death, blessing and cursing. Choose life. How do we do that? Not just by thought, but by following through on the thought. Discern and then act on that which we've discerned.
Yeah, someone told me years ago when we first got into Hebrew Roots, pushing 20 years ago now, that the popular doctrine on TV is my faith is producing blessing. I'm blessed because of my faith. Scripturally, as we see again in chapter 15, verse 6, belief produces righteousness. Obedience brings blessing. There is, you have to act out before the blessing shows up. So you just can't believe it and think about it and convince yourself in your mind that it's a reality and then it materializes. There is a need of some act of obedience for the blessing to materialize. It's commonly stated to me in conversations. Well, I'm believing. We're believing for a revival, or we're believing that the economy is going to turn around. Years ago, not in current times, this is probably close to 10 years ago, gas prices were going up. Well, they're going up now, but They were going way up, and a lady in the faith movement looked at me and she said, "But they're going to come down." I said, "Why do you think they're going to come down?" She said, "They have to, because my husband and I are confessing that every morning." And I thought, because you speak a word out of your mouth, what you want to see, that's the way it's going to be done. But she was convinced, well, because we're confessing this and declaring it to be so, it has to be so.
Mm.
I don't know
leads
the
to
word
thought.
alone or belief. Is that the activity of belief that produces results just because you say it?
That reveals something. What I'm thinking, to me, that reveals where their faith really is. Is their faith in Yahweh and His Word, or is their faith in themselves and what they believe and what they want?
Yeah.
It could be misguided. Some people, it's funny how the things that they want is always what the Holy Spirit seems to be telling them. We don't do that. We need to make sure that we are discerning the word that's given there. I mean, Abraham believed God; it was counted to him as righteousness, right? It's not Abraham wanted something to happen for him, so he just kept saying it. Not a matter of if I keep repeating it, I'm going to believe it, and other people are going to believe it too, and then it's going to happen. It's not some kind of mantra, I'm thinking, if we are righteous, then we are only righteous not because of us, but because in Him. Then we are going to walk in His Word. We're going to believe His Word. Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness, and he was called a friend of God, right?
Right.
So if we believe Him, we're going to walk according to that Word, not our own ideologies. I'm thinking two scriptures here real quick. Habakkuk 2:4. It says, "Look at the proud; he's inwardly not upright, but the righteous will live by faith." And then Hosea 14:9, "Whoever is wise, let him understand this. Whoever is discerning, let him know. For the ways of Yahweh are right, and the upright walk in them, but transgressors stumble in them." So if we say we believe, like James says, great, but even the demons believe, and they tremble.
Sure.
So if we say we believe, is that enough? No, because we can believe in many things. But what we do with that belief is where reality tends to hit us. Where is our faith? Is it misguided? Do we have faith in a God that we have created in our own mind, and we say this is what needs to happen? Guess what? That's idolatry. That's not serving Yahweh. So in the process of saying we believe, we need to search what we believe. I believe Rav Shaul said something like that, didn't he? Search yourselves to see that you're in the faith.
David, when I hear someone say, "Well, I'm believing," I'm thinking, okay, you're thinking positively about this. You're praying about it, and you're trusting that the Father is going to hear your words, your prayers, your intercessions, and intervene. And yes, that's right. I mean, that's what we do. But then at some point, I'm saying, okay, so what are you doing as an act of your belief? You tell me that in your mind you see and believe a certain thing. But if you believe it to be completely true, then you act on it in some means, if it's possible. Now, if you're praying for the gas prices to come down, I join with you in those prayers because I don't like where they're at either. But it's kind of hard to figure out, okay, well then how do I act out in my belief on that? By refusing to buy gas until they come down, or what am I going to do? Sometimes there's nothing that can be done other than we pray and we intercede. But if it is possible for us to act out, put feet to our prayers and walk our belief out, then we need to do that.
Seems like you kind of point out there's a distinction between hope and belief. It's two different things. Something we may hope for doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Boy, that's kind of opening up another thing that we don't have time for.
Yeah, I hope we have more time, but my hope is not going to become reality. We're out of time. Folks, we enjoy so much you listening. Thank you so much for doing so. And we're desirous of any comments or questions that you might have. You can reach us at, David, give us the address.
Reunion Roadmap at BeneYosefNA.com.
Mason Clover sings Crisis of Belief from his album An Intimate Look, available at masonclover.com.
Your invitation led me to a crisis of belief, and I wasn't ready to adjust the way you wanted of me. Now I'm ready to hear from you. There's just repentance in me. Father, I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm as foolish as one can be. Won't you come to me? Stay a while, I'm ready to believe. Won't you come to me? I can hear your voice. You never turn from me. Your cleansing spirit, I need to cleanse me. And I'm not worthy of the love that you give, for all the hurtful things I did. And in my circumstance, it is clear to see that you living in me will bless my kids. Won't you come to me? Stay a while, I'm ready to believe. Won't you come to me? I can hear your voice. You never turn from me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the music for this edition of Reunion Roadmap. We just heard Mason Clover, Crisis of Belief. Our first musical guest was Laura Metzing, singing Instrument of Worship. And they were like bookends for this midrash, which Barry and David called Inside Out Faith. Hey, Stefano, what is inside out faith?
Well, I think we see it in what Pastor Joe has been mentioning in the interview when he's talking about inside out faith and how there's somebody in his congregation, and you mentioned it in our introduction, who was a prostitute, and the amazing testimony that came out of that, of her life, and that was a prime example of inside out faith, working the Father working his purposes inside of her until she came to that place in her life where the Father was putting her on the right path.
There you go, putting her on the right path. Now, he does put us on the right path, but then he expects us to start taking steps.
Amen.
And that's what I get from this concept of inside out faith. I mean, the Christian concept, if I could describe it correctly, is put your faith in Jesus,
Yeah.
and then you're saved.
Yeah.
All too often, though, that's not followed up with, and then do what he did.
Yeah. Yes.
That's why we have the example of Abraham held up to us Paul held up Abraham to us, so did James.
Yes.
The man who actually demonstrated his faith by walking out the commands of God. So there should be a change from the inside out, right?
Yeah. Man. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I understand from Romans 12,
Yes.
1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just thinking, just like Yeshua, we see in the Gospels, where speaking of a prostitute again, the woman was brought before Yeshua to be stoned, and then he proceeds to tell her that your sins have been forgiven of you, and to go and sin no more. Now, it didn't mean that she was going to be perfect. It meant don't participate in the thing that got you into this position again. Leave that behind and start walking in what I'm calling you to.
Yeah. Now, it's relatively easy to understand and actually engage in the right kind of behavior when we're talking about obvious sinful things.
Yes.
Sexual immorality and theft. But what happens when we encounter something where God wants to correct a doctrinal issue or a belief that we've had that is maybe not consistent with what's in his word?
Yes. I mean, even you look at blameless Job, and he was blameless, but he was not sinless. And we see at the end of his ordeal, could he have gotten to the place where he could have said, I know that my Redeemer lives? We could see there was a correction in his thinking that had to take place. And that did take place, and that's where he was able to declare that.
Oh, a correction in the thinking. Yes. If we are humble and teachable, that's what's supposed to happen. And that's the whole point of Peter's vision.
Yes.
Yeah, in Acts 10.
Yep.
Because the Gentiles, the uncircumcised, all of a sudden the Holy Spirit's falling on them. They're God-fearers, but they're not part of the family. And the Spirit fell to explain what God has called holy, don't you call unholy?
Yes.
And to bring it full circle, Stefania, I'll just say this. It seems that our brother Joe Hufstetler and the others who went with him, that they're learning this the other way around. With our Jewish brethren, whom they're still the heart and soul, the core of Israel, the covenant nation, the covenant people.
Yes.
So what God has called holy, do not dare call unholy.
Right.
Well, let's leave it at that. And I would invite you all, please go visit our website, bneyosefna.com, BNEYYOSEFNA.com. Check out our resources. Hit that donate button if you are so inclined. We would be honored to partner with you. And if you'd like to join our growing network of affiliates of B'nai Yosef North America, you can start that process right there on our homepage. So on behalf of Stefania Pappas, Barry Phillips, and David Jones, this is Al McCarn. Shavua Tov.
Thank you for joining us on the Reunion Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America. Please come back next week for another visit with the people of the emerging house of Yosef here in North America.